Hello and welcome to Today at Dunamis. The images you just saw on your screen were taken by myself and Pastor Shaun last week, Friday, during Shabbat. And it was a very interesting day for us, wasn't it, Shaun?
Yeah, it's very sobering, isn't it? Starting off rather than a nice little jazz introduction, but it was very sobering. And
Yes.
I had said to Ed, I don't know, last week at some point, and I said, hey, a couple of things is I'm still traumatized by those actions of Hamas on Israel, with the rapes, the murders, the captives, the babies being pushed in prams by the Hamas in the tunnels and all those areas. I'm traumatized by the other groups shooting its own hospital and blaming Israel for it and all the other things here. I'm traumatized by the number of Australians, the Greens, Labor persons, and now, the unions, and the unions coming out, a list of 100 unions supporting Hamas and saying that they must. Hamas is a terrorist organization recognized as a terrorist group, around 2007 in Australia. And so any of that area is just criminal. In fact, let me be totally frank to you.
Yes.
As report is, there would be a lot of Gaza Palestinians who'd be relieved to be rid of Hamas because of the killings on their own people. They put themselves in hospitals, in schools, in apartments, so that when Israel does look to deal with it, innocent people do. They use their own people as a wall, and it is traumatizing. So last Friday, one of the head leaders of Hamas in Gaza said Friday was an attack on all Jews in every part of the world.
Yeah.
So I said to Ed, let's go to the Brisbane synagogue on Margaret Street.
Yes.
Just to get in there is an effort, isn't it, Ed?
Yeah, that was a struggle.
You just can't walk in. They got security, police. That's the Brisbane synagogue on Margaret Street.
That's where we went.
Yeah. And they got the iron gate. You can't just walk in.
Nah.
I mean, for a long time there, they said we could not get in.
Yeah.
Right, we were gonna. They had tactical police there and plainclothes police there, weapons. They weren't letting us in.
Yeah,
and so we were just said, well, whatever, we're Christians, we're pastor, and then I laughed at him. He says, "Do you know a Jew, anyone who can support you?" Well, I was kind of thinking, well, yes, I do. You know what I mean? But I don't know if you would like his name. His name is Jesus. But I didn't think that would work. Okay, but it didn't happen. And then they said, well, you two just stand over there. We're going to have a meeting.
Yep.
And so Ed and I went over to our corner. And I looked at Ed and I said, is it because of you or me or both of us? I mean, is it the way you look, Ed, the way I look, or is it the way we look?
Yeah.
Have you got an answer on that yet?
I think two big white guys coming to the front.
So anyhow, they called us over again with the security, and they started apologizing. So I said, oh, yeah, they're not letting us in. Then they said, but we're going to let you in.
Yeah.
But first of all, open up your coats. Let's have a look around that you got no weapons.
Yeah, make sure we're not armed. Yeah.
So I said, you want to pat me down? Pat me down.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
got nothing to hide.
No, to come in there. So then they let us in, and we grabbed the kippah, which is a little hat, and we went in. And, it was a very moving time, wasn't it, Ed?
Yeah, this is
very
the place.
moving. We were just sitting there to the right.
Yeah.
Okay, just to the right front row. They tell us what it said. So, of course, the ladies sit upstairs
on the balcony.
So it was a very moving. I thought it was very moving, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a very unique experience. It's always interesting to experience this kind of stuff during times of persecution.
Yeah. I said to Ed, there's only 2 words you need to learn.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I think I said it 50 times.
50, yeah. Because they don't come home, you just say Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom.
Yeah.
Ed got very good at it. Say it again, Ed.
Shabbat shalom.
Yeah.
Shabbat
so Shabbat, of course, is Sabbath. Shalom is peace. You know what I mean? And all for it there. Service only went for about 50 minutes.
Yeah, 50,
I think it was cut
45
short.
Minutes. Yeah, they told us to get lost. They told us to get lost.
Then not quite. Then another elder got up and said the police has said to get out.
Yeah, get out.
And because of danger with the protest. So Ed and I wandered out, and they were very. There's only like 30 people there, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, barely hitting 30. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a few. That's because of the fear of the area
fear going on right now. Yeah.
And so we went out the gate, and they were so appreciative, weren't they?
Yeah, they're very grateful, very kind. Yeah.
So I said I'd like to come back next week with my wife. So they photographed our licenses.
Licenses, yeah.
I mean, like the background checks that is
Yeah.
huge, which I understand.
Yeah.
And so then I looked at Ed, and Ed looked at me when we're out, and Ed said, "Shall we?" And I said, "We shall." So we went straight up to the protest. It was about 300-400 meters away.
Square, yeah.
Yeah, and just that's the background. Yeah. Now, this is quite interesting when Ed and I were there, because the media report says only a few hundred.
Yeah, it was like a few hundred. They were saying hundreds.
I'm going to tell you something, Ed. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. There were thousands.
There were thousands. No way there was hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the Palestine flag. There was the Aboriginal flag.
That was weird to see, yeah.
And all sorts of union people, and the Greens politicians for Brisbane, all sorts of persons over there.
Yeah.
And I get concerned that the Palestinians tried to connect, and this is what they did with the whole yes vote and Hamas and everything else. I mean, that's the Aboriginal flag flying now, I think.
Yeah.
So it all came in the area about to disperse people and everything else. So it's very sad. When in the synagogue, it was very peaceful.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no talk of kill or revenge. But when we're out in the street area, and even though we weren't in it, but we're there beside them, it was very much anger and protest.
Yes.
But I never felt unsafe when I was over there at that protest. Did you?
Yeah, I didn't feel unsafe. No.
I felt like a spectator.
Yeah, it was very loud.
And I mean, obviously, if I had an Israeli flag,
oh yeah, if we were in a kippah or anything like that, we would have been mobbed.
Hey. I mean, we would have been mobbed, right?
Yes.
But they're making a statement. So this is a time to pray for Israel.
Yes.
And pray for peace over the whole area. Am I saying that Israel hasn't or can't get heavy-handed? No, I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But let's put it in reference. When 9/11 hit America, and I still remember President George Bush standing on the ruins with his megaphone.
Yeah.
We're coming for you.
Yes.
And false information about Iraq and attacking Iraq and the lifestyle.
Yes.
I think it's very hard to be a Westerner to not understand the feelings of Israel.
Yeah.
And the barbarism that has happened to Israel is far worse than 9/11.
Yeah, yeah.
Girls, 20-something-year-old, raped, beat on the head unconscious, their naked, sprawled body thrown on the back of the ute that the Palestinians are driving to the border with them. Mothers seeing their daughters sprawled up, thinking they're dead, in just dirty, ridiculous positions.
Yes.
Babies with their heads chopped off.
Yeah.
Even this week, I saw Hamas pushing a baby stroller with a Jewish baby, as a prisoner in other areas. People in their 80s. People, young children. Not only that, there's something like 40 Americans who are held there.
Yeah.
There are those from India, Nepal, Thailand are also in that area.
Yeah.
And to somehow say, okay, just peace now because, and these protests say it's Israel's fault. And I taught last week about the origins.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, I'm telling you, it's just wrong.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And to think of the union groups.
Yeah.
A nursing union of New South Wales, and how they do this and support it is just morally wrong.
Yes.
Morally. If you had someone break into your home, rape your daughter, rape your wife, rape your fiance, strip her naked, throw her in the back of a utility, butt naked and display with her head smashed, and then parade it driving around with her body in the back, then you're saying, okay, let's just show restraint. Let's just show peace.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Australia has the worst helicopter parents and attack helicopter parents that I think exist.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That you have a grandchild or a child who's not only killed but decapitated. And you're telling me But you're saying, "Oh, please show restraint. Let's not take it too personal."
Yeah.
Are you serious? And I saw how the Western world reacted, including Australia in 911, which is the longest war we've ever had.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that we see Israel as nothing more than what? Second, third class citizens, that somehow they deserve it or they instigated it because of them being hard or cruel on Gaza.
Yeah.
You have got to be joking. Friend, let me be honest. You are sick.
Yeah.
Let me be frank. You are sick. Not S-I-C, but S-I-C-K. Sick.
Yeah.
If you believe that, you are sick. You are, I'm sorry, I'm going to be right. You are demented.
Yeah.
If that's what you believe. And if you think that Hamas is somehow connected to our own indigenous persons, you are devilishly influenced.
Yes.
Because this is just wrong.
Taking
Absolute
advantage
wrong.
of. Yeah.
And Hamas has got to be destroyed. Now, I'm not saying innocent people, but they are in these buildings. And I just read before we came on air that they've opened up a corridor. Egypt has opened the corridor now to the bottom part there. And with aid from America coming in to help people. And they need to get people out. They need to open the corridor.
Yeah.
But it's not just a matter of Israel doing it. And Israel there was a bombing on the area there. And that's because it was in that bombing, Ed, that they got the number one top leader of Hamas, who was hiding with the refugees trying to get across the areas.
Oh, wow.
So that's what they do. They don't stand out as soldiers. They either attack innocent people and butcher and do things, or they hide with the women and children to get through. And then civilians get killed and injured, and then they cry out the injustice.
Yes.
So they've got to why don't they go get several thousand American forces, put them down there on that border, okay, and let people go through and check them and get them through that area there. Put them on YouTube. Go do something.
Yes.
You know what I mean? President Biden, President Biden's not my favorite president. But at least he showed some gall by going to Israel.
Yeah, yeah.
Never has there been an American president who's ever gone to Israel during war.
Yeah.
The closest thing they got was Henry Kissinger.
Yes.
But never an American president. So let's give him credit for that, okay?
Yeah.
And his own party is in uproar.
Yes. Yes.
I saw on Fox News one of the Democrat senators who happens to be Palestinian, claiming death over Biden. And saying that.
Oh, my goodness.
So he's got his own problem in his party.
Yeah.
But the whole, and doesn't even talk about the problem that Republicans can't get a House Speaker.
Yeah, can't get a Speaker.
But the fact of the matter is that, there are some serious things there. So, Father, I just pray over Israel, and I pray over the Palestinians. I pray over the Christians, Messianic Christians in Israel. I pray, Lord, over the Christian Palestinians too, because I've known of them, I've met them. And I'm praying, Lord, for favor. I'm asking for justice. I'm asking for wisdom with Israel. I know that they're angry and upset, but still wisdom in how to handle the area. I pray for lands like Australia and others who got so caught up, Lord, with things that is just so wrong and so much done in a bad way. And I just pray for favor and wisdom in the name of Jesus. I ask it and speak it. Amen.
Amen. So, Shaun,
yes,
we have a guest here with us.
We certainly do.
We have a guest
worth mentioning.
Yes, welcome, Rodney. Welcome to the show.
Listen to the applause. The crowd, the crowd is alive. Wow, thank that crowd. That crowd is
very
alive.
Very loud. Yeah.
Well, you draw a big attention.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
So, Pastor Rod, you are speaking at church Sunday morning at 8 a.m. and 9:30.
Yes.
Have you worked out what your sermon title is? Because when I talked to him 2 hours ago, he was going between two sermons. Okay, so he's been sitting quietly in the office area, just going through it. So, do we have an announcement?
You have an announcement.
Oh,
okay, we have an announcement.
Yes.
Okay, do we need a little drum entrance here?
I do not have a drum roll sound effect, sadly.
All right.
Oh dear. All right.
Yes.
The message is seeing life through a gospel lens.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Very good. Very good.
So looking at Philippians chapter 1, verse 12 to 26, when Paul is in jail and he shares some of his challenges that he's having in jail and looking at his attitude that he had through that. And the basis of it is for us to be able to, when we have our life feels out of control with health, work, finances, relationships, the big question becomes, how do we respond under stress?
Yes.
So looking at Paul's life as how he responded under the stress that he was under in that situation.
True.
Yeah, and life doesn't always go the way that we want and how it
totally.
goes.
Yeah,
And there are some people, even like with the yes vote,
Yes.
and I've got people in our church, beautiful people, First Nations, who were devastated. And we've been sharing with them this week.
Yes.
And this is not where one says we want you to do it, but saying, hey, we know your heart, we know where you're at, because we want to speak love. And it's looking at a lot of the gospel. It's a key, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you just came back. You are the head of a religious
Bethesda
movement
Ministries.
called Bethesda Ministries.
International.
And you just came back from the Philippines. You were
Yes.
there
Oh, wow.
for 2 weeks.
Yes, that's right.
And how many churches are connected to you in the Philippines?
So we have 24 churches
Wow.
Yep.
on 2 islands.
Yep.
And we had 2 conferences that we went on each island and just had a wonderful time. They are Filipino people, are beautiful people, loving, caring, and treated us so well. But most of the work that our pastors do and where the churches are situated are in slum areas. So they go into the slums and set up a church there. And many of them grew up in the slums, and Joe and Primrose Chavez are the leaders there, and they have fostered themselves personally 9 children, plus have 4 of their own. But they've also worked with slum children and bringing them up and helping them to be educated, putting them through school and all of that. And so many of them have become educated, but then have come back and become pastors in their own areas of the slum where they came from.
Oh,
Well, that's good.
Just wonderful to see.
I know that Pastor Harry DeVries, a friend
Yes.
of ours, he was over there last year.
year.
Just went on there to have a look at the team going over, and which is wonderful.
Yes.
And so, what was your highlight of the trip?
My highlight was probably the youth service, just seeing 300 young people packed into the church and just worshiping and praising God and just hungry for God. And we had some wonderful prophetic words for them to go back into their schools, into the universities, and begin starting small groups within those areas. And had a tremendous response from them in the at the altar call. But it was just beautiful to see just their passion, and it's something that I'd love to be able to transport over here to Australia and get our young people fired up the same way.
So, if that was your highlight, what was the worst thing?
The worst thing was...
There's always a good and a bad.
Yeah, that's true.
No, the worst thing was, as I told you, black ink squid that they make in a little jelly, and eating that. It was so salty. I could not handle it. The rest of the food was beautiful and enjoyed that. But as far as relationships go, it was just great to be able to. This was the first time that they've met their new leader. I've only been in that position 2.5 years. And so I was able to meet with them and just have some wonderful time of fellowship and sharing. We visited all of the churches in the 2 islands and had a great time just with the people there.
Yeah, praise
so
God.
good,
That's
so
good.
good. Yeah.
So, how long have you been back in Australia?
Just 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
So, how has all of this Hamas Israel thing hit over in Adelaide? Has there been much ruckus about it, or what?
Yes, there has been to some extent. It's not as big as here. It seems to be
Yeah,
much bigger here. But there have been some protests there for sure.
Yeah, there have been protests there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There have been, and but on a smaller scale. There, but certainly amongst the church people, there's a very strong aspect of praying for Israel and for the peace of Israel.
Yeah, and that's what we do, because I mean, Psalm 122:6 says, "Pray for the peace of
That's it.
Jerusalem."
Yeah.
That's
all
it.
there. And we do that because it's a biblical command.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's not us putting one against another or anything else. I mean, that's the matter of us. I mean, my friend Ophir, I was in contact with him Sunday. He's a Messianic Jew, so that means he's a born-again Jew, which means he's an outcast of Jews, which means he's persecuted by Jews. And he has a church there in Jerusalem I've been to, and I like to give monetary gifts. And I asked him, how are you, Ofer? And he says at the end of Shabbat, which was the Saturday just gone, he said that his wife, her husband, and their 3 daughters were driving back to Tel Aviv from Jerusalem. And they got the warning on the phone of incoming rockets from Hamas. So they had to pull over on the side of the road and get out. And the parents use themselves as shields, and they lie on top of a child. So if it hits nearby, they get done. But one child didn't have someone fully covering. And this is so they said a lady pulled over, doesn't know them, and jumped out of the car and covered over that other child.
Oh, wow.
Just to put their bodies on it. Now, you know, God's grace is there, but can you imagine living under that sort of persecution? Now, interesting enough, Rodney, your father did live under that sort of persecution.
Oh, yes. Mum and Dad.
He was a refugee.
Mum and Dad both, because they lived under Nazi Germany when they lived in Poland. And they were basically told that first we're going to get rid of all the Jews, and then we're coming under those who followed that Jew, Jesus.
Christians and everything else. And everything else. So the persecution. So it was quite a miracle about your father.
It was just incredible, just the way that God took our family through the war, and had wonderful stories of how they were saved. If we've got time, I can share maybe one that they had 2 lines on the roads. One was for army, and the other one was for refugees. And so the refugees, if they crossed over, a truck would just run over them. So they would just line. They weren't allowed to go over in that line. The other one was ambulances and supply lines and so on. And so there's thousands of refugees escaping the Germans, and the Russians were coming in the Germans. And suddenly this ambulance driver pulled over, told my mum and my brother and sister, who were about 10 and 12, jump in the car, jump in the ambulance. So they jumped in. My brother was in the back with a fellow that had half his face blown off.
Oh, my goodness.
And my sister was at the front with Mum. And Mum said, "Why have you saved us?" And he said, "I don't know. I mean, we're talking of thousands of refugees." And he said, "I saw my sister Anita, and she reminded me of my daughter back home, and something inside me said, I've got to save this family."
Wow.
And so he just took them across to safety, and the Russians actually came in, and all those refugees were taken back to Russia.
My goodness.
And they were went across. So it's just been a miracle.
Now, your father wasn't with your mother at that point, so they were separated because of the war.
Because he was forced. He had to serve in the Polish army because they were Poland. When the Nazis took over, they forced them into the Nazi army. So the first chance they got, he crossed over lines. So he was a medic, and so he went over to the English side. And so the English took all of these different nationalities and put them into Italy. And so in Italy, they formed this sort of ragtag army under a English general. And so they just did a whole lot of supervision in Italy, because by then Mussolini had fallen. And Dad was serving with a major, and Dad was also a professional photographer. He was a minister, but he also was a professional photographer back in his early days. And so the major said, "I'm going back to Germany, and I know your family's there. If you want to come, show me how to use this new camera that I've just bought. I don't know how to use it. And you can then have a couple of days to look for your family." So that's what he did. He said, "Great." So they went over through the Swiss Alps and drove convoy back into Berlin. Dad spent 2 days going around all of the refugee camps and going to all of the lists, and couldn't find Mum and the kids listed at all. It came to the last day, Saturday morning, and if he stayed, he would have been AWOL, and of course they would have gone after him. So he just prayed and said, "God, where is my family?" And he's walking down this main street. It was Saturday morning, markets everywhere at the bottom, and people buying their food and so on. And then there will be 2, 3, 4 stories up of living places. And he's walking along, and suddenly the Holy Spirit says to him, lift your head up and call out Reginald, which is my brother.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he calls out his name, and my brother, 3 stories up, is standing on the balcony veranda looking down.
Whoa.
And he hears his name called and sees Dad.
Wow.
And he runs and says, Mum, Dad's here. And she said, tell him to wait. I've got to do my hair and so on. I haven't seen him for so long. I've got to make sure I at least look reasonable.
Wow.
And so they touched base, and Dad had to go back, but they then relocated and then went over to London and worked with refugees over there.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, in other words, our world has always had displaced people.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And has always dealt with atrocities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And whether we go back to World War II or World War I or even beyond those areas, it is.
Absolutely.
How blessed is a generation that has not seen it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the strengths of the nation of Australia is that it's full of those people who've come across.
That's right.
Yes.
I mean, even my parents, nothing like your story, were called 10-pound poms.
That's it.
And that was where Australia was trying to build the population, and for 10-pound European, could come over here and restart. Now, there's nothing like what you had. But the fact of the matter is that that's part of our backbone.
That's
and of course,
we give people a chance.
we give people a chance, you know what I mean?
That's it.
And that's not taken away from the First Nations, the original people. It's not taken
Absolutely.
away what they've done, and also the injustices they experience. I'm not disputing that. But the fact of the matter is, Australia is inclusive of all of us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You know, and I bet in school, coming from a little bit more of a Slavic background, you wouldn't have been initially just integrated in.
No. I grew up in Elizabeth, and that was where a lot of the
Elizabeth
10-pound
is in Adelaide.
in South Australia, and that's where a lot of the 10-pound poms were at that time. So we had a lot of Poms, Greeks, and Italians, and there was me, and so yes, there was a little bit of jiving going on there.
Yeah. Well, I remember my mum telling me, because my older brother was about 7 or so when he came over here, or 5 or 6, and he went to school his first day. Well, they dressed as they would in English, with a little, a short little coat and a tie and a hat. Well, not over here. Here is barefoot shorts and a T-shirt. Or whatever. Yeah. So the boy did he get knocked around, you know what I mean? So it comes about. So
You didn't go back there again with that, I bet.
No, and the thing is, I've heard many. I mean, I've heard Roxana and Gavin talk about being Romanian and coming here. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, it's been all there. My family is called Pommy, whatever. You know what I mean? In the area, so it comes across. But you know, putting it aside, Australia is a melting pot of personalities, and that's also part of the tragedy in this is that those who are Palestinian or whatever else, we welcome you.
Yes.
We want to give you life.
That's right.
But please, don't bring your trash here. Leave your politics there. I mean, same as the European soccer groups. Remember, we had those.
That's right.
Leave your politics behind. You're in Australia. We want to celebrate you. We want to embrace you. We want to love you. We want you to contribute to our community, and we want to bless you. But don't bring your politics here. And that's one of the greatest tragedies, you know. You have no right to attack a Jew in Australia. Just like we'd say a Jew has no right to attack a Palestinian in Australia. And so that's it. You leave it. Just like the English can't be fighting the Irish over here, and the Irish English is there.
That's right.
You know, you left that. So leave it. Don't bring it here. Amen. That's my personal thing. A couple of news stories you have for us there, Edward?
Yeah. Well, I mean, biggest news if you haven't heard about it yet. The voice referendum, it failed. I mean, I feel like it's pretty old, but at the same time, I kind of felt like it was going to come with a no. I felt it was going to be no.
I'm actually kind of surprised.
You're surprised?
That anybody thought it would succeed in the last week.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm shocked that there were persons who thought that somehow they would win.
Yeah,
well, it's interesting statistically that they said there's been, 45 referendums in Australia.
Yes.
And out of that 45, only 8 have succeeded.
Yeah.
And the only 8 that have succeeded it's been bipartisan. Both parties have agreed. Whenever there's been a split with the 2 major parties and they haven't succeeded. So there was little chance. They had to be able to give and take and work together to have any hope.
Yeah, and so who do we blame? Well, the first thing is I feel sad, not for the Aboriginal political persons, because there's an agenda there.
Yeah.
Okay. But I feel sorry for Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders who've been used as pawns on these areas. I feel that our Prime Minister has a lot to answer for.
Yes.
Because I just think that even when he knew it wasn't going to win, he was so stubborn.
Yeah.
He could have paused it. He could have waited, could have had discussions.
That's right.
To make it work. Remember, we have 7 elected representatives between the Senate and the lower house who are First Nations. Why can't it be structured that those 7 persons across the table, no matter what thing, get together and work out some counsel and advice for our leaders, put aside the politics, but work out what's best for the people. The Jacinta Price, I was really disturbed this week how in the Senate she asked that certain things be done for the First Nations, that they would work for protection in the area of child abuse and investigation for misappropriation of funds. We're talking about $40 billion a year over 10 years, and we're not seeing the effects.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So something is wrong. I heard of one major leader in the area has had 4 Land Rovers and everything else. And, we need to do some sort of, how is it that as a church is held accountable for audits,
Yep.
but we're not doing it in the
Yes.
area? And it's not an attack on First Nations because it's the First Nations who are not benefiting. And this is what has to do. Why is the money not getting down there? Why? I'm not against us giving the money. But why is it not getting down to grassroots? And it has to be a fair thing all the way across the board. And then, of course, a particular Labor senator gets up and says, well, we're not supporting it because you're just trying to get revenge. Revenge for what? You know what I mean? So, and this is, as long as we're like this, it doesn't matter what we're like, as long as we're like this, it's about point scoring and winning. It's going to come across in that area. So it comes in there.
Yeah, even in the age demographic of yes and no, I thought there would be like a real major split. But I was reading some statistics that Triple J Hack put out, and even like here in Queensland, 24%, that was the age gap of 18 to 29, 44 voted no, while 55 voted yes. So even in some of the younger demographic, they were voting very similarly to the older generations who were
which is
mostly
unusual.
voting no. Yeah, that's what I mean.
But there's also states like Victoria was predicted to vote yes, and they didn't.
Yeah.
Tasmania was like, matter of fact, is going to be, and then Adelaide, which is a
South
very
Australia,
strong,
they worked very hard in Adelaide trying to get that through.
And
they
they
were
put
shocked.
those in, and so that was shocked. I mean, the only place that voted yes is ACT. Well, that's the same place that allows pornography. It's the same place that's now legalizing methamphetamines, everything else. I mean,
Oh my
why are we
goodness.
not surprised?
Yeah, no shockers there.
But even the Northern Territory didn't.
No, I know.
Yeah.
That was a big shock.
So we have to understand this is not an attack on First Nations.
Yeah.
Torres Strait. This is not an attack.
No.
It's an attack on it hasn't been presented correctly.
Yes.
I don't think there's anybody who doesn't want to recognize First Nations.
Yeah.
It was all the attachments.
Yeah.
And it's all of the uncertainties. So rather than attack those who you feel voted no, you need to look at those who represented it and how they didn't do it properly. And there's too many things said, some things on both sides, a lot on the other side, making out that if you voted no, you're a racist.
Yeah.
Now that Jacinta, I don't think it would have voted no without that Jacinta Price. I mean, Warren Mundine perhaps, but that Jacinta Price, she's only first term senator. And they're all saying, wouldn't she be a great prime minister? Well, you go, I think she'd be great.
I don't know who you're talking about. I thought you were being negative. Sorry. I don't know who you're talking about.
Jacinta Price was the First Nations lady, in the Nationals.
Oh, was she the one on ABC saying all that stuff about we don't want a colonial constitution?
no.
You're talking of the other one.
Oh, the other one.
Yeah, that's Auntie.
You're getting mixed up there, mate.
So you stay out of this conversation.
All right, I'll be quiet.
Okay. So she was like a star.
Yes, she was.
Okay. Now, in order for her to have, no, I'm not saying she's going to run, she'd have to, first of all, not be a senator, okay, because a senator can't run, okay? She has to go to the lower house. Yeah. And secondly, she'd have to change parties. Because the party she has like national equivalent, she needs to come into Liberal.
To Liberal.
Which, I don't know if it could happen. But it's amazing how she could be a first term, and she's the shadow minister for Aboriginal Affairs, which was a wise move by Dutton.
Yeah.
But she has really been an amazing person. I
And
mean,
she speaks very well and very clear.
yeah. And wouldn't that be something? I'm just saying, in the next 10 years or 5 years, if she became Prime Minister, not only female, but First Nations.
First Nations.
Wouldn't that be just...
That would be.
I mean, I think that would be
say
just
something about Australia.
I just think she'd do a lot of good. And I know that's only here that people talk about in the area, and she's in the first year. But boy, wouldn't that be, just to think about that, wouldn't that mean, I mean, I would support her. I mean, like, I think it'd be brilliant.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Agreed.
And I'd like to think in the next couple elections that she goes to the lower house and that she goes to, and it's not against the Nationals, but just in order to become the Prime Minister needs to do that. So you got to think of what's better for the nation. But wouldn't that be just ironic?
Yeah.
It would be.
And that's the problem, is that the First Nations were attacking each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was seen very clearly in the whole presentation of that vote.
Oh, wow. I mean, the things they said about Jacinta
Price.
Not Ardern. Her party lost the election in New Zealand. Praise God for that. Although she resigned. That was a blessing, I tell you. But the fact of the matter is that the Price, I mean, she would be incredible, wouldn't she? I mean, just think about it. Could you imagine that? Wow.
That would be a feather in Australia's cap.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be great for our nation. I mean, I would love to see that, but it comes about there. Edward, what else do you have for me?
Well, I guess something else to bring up was, I think a lot of that infighting with the Indigenous, like, there was like half of them wanted it, but then the other half were like, oh, why would we want a colonial document to dictate our people? And I think, and that kind of leads on to now that Queensland opposition leader David Cracerfully says the path to treaty will only create a further division because he's not supporting a Queensland treaty for the Indigenous.
Yeah.
And that's just been a big flip that just happened just today.
So our Premier of Queensland, which I still can't figure out, even though they had the big vote was no, to push ahead with doing a treaty.
Doing a treaty anyway, yeah.
And again, the opposition leader, LNP, Liberal, had originally said supporting it.
Yes.
It's all political. He originally said supporting it because he thought it would be the vote.
Yeah.
And now he said he won't because it's the vote. You know, even though I'm LNP, it doesn't look good.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it comes is like flipping there. But if he did support it, I think he'd be in serious trouble.
Yeah.
Because
right now.
our elections are in October.
Oh yeah,
And
coming up.
Oh my goodness, we have got to have a change. I'm encouraged by what happened in New Zealand.
Yeah.
If it can happen in New Zealand, please, Lord, let it happen here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I'd like to see it happen. I'd like to see it happen in Victoria as well.
The challenge with our politicians, unfortunately, is that it is purely based on voting power.
Yeah.
It is not based on self-belief, on standards, on what you believe and stand for. That time is gone. It used to be that, but that time is gone, and now it's just public popularity. Yes. And you'll make those moves based on, will it get me elected next time, and you know, is it favourable?
Yeah, and I want them to think of not just to get elected, but to stay a couple of terms.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
I mean, that to me is the important thing. And you know, as Christians, we're always caught up, like we have seasons, you know. And I'm teaching a particular subject right now on church history. It's the second part 2 church history. I'm teaching the class. And yesterday's lecture was about the 20th century, the 1900s, and the dilemmas that was affecting our society. It was communism. You know, I mean, when you have Karl Marx, you had Lenin, you had Stalin, you know, all the way through.
Yeah.
Then we had the Soviet Union or the USSR, which is a very real thing, which is what your family escaped in the area. Then, of course, we had Nazism, which, again, your family was affected, and my mother was affected, and my grandfather died because of the Nazis. They torpedoed the ship. And we had that effect there. And then we have what we call Americanism, which affects my generation. And by Americanism, I'm talking about how America came out of World War II as the winner.
Yeah, as the winner, 100%.
Not just war, but I'm talking about financially.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, England's war debt to America wasn't paid off until the 80s.
Yeah.
England was still on rations all the way through the 50s, trying to survive. America was the winner in the context. I mean, let's not talk wrong. We appreciate America. Without them, we would have been up the creek. I mean, England was nowhere to be found with us. It was America that came over.
That's right.
But they really came out the winners, to the winner goes the spoils, as we say. And so then, as a result of post-war, from the 50s on, Americanism came in. I mean, we were so English-driven.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? In our culture, our music and that.
Yep.
But post-war, they say from the 50s, the war finished 45, but the 50s is American music, your Chuck Berry's, Buddy Holly's.
Television shows.
You know what I mean?
All that.
All those areas is all of it. Then we have all of our TV programs and the movies and I mean, it's America. So we have it in our music. We had it in our thing. And then Levi jeans and everything else. Everybody want Levi jeans. And I can remember in the 70s as a kid, I had gym shoes, which I only realized as an adult is American Converse. Okay, we used to call them gym shoes in the gym.
Nike or Converse.
Yeah, do you remember those?
Nike
You had
and
those?
Converse.
Yeah. Well, not Nike then. That wasn't that came later. It was Adidas.
That's right.
It was
That's right.
Adidas. So
Converse.
Nike hadn't come in yet.
Yeah.
Okay. You're older than me.
Yeah, I know.
So if it wasn't on my day, it wasn't in yours, okay? It's just one of those seniors moments.
That's all right, mate.
So
all right.
it was, I called them gym shoes, which that navy blue with that rubber patch on it, which I didn't realize until later how that was Converse. And that was only when I lived in America. I'm like, oh my goodness, I had good shoes. Because we just wanted to tear that tag off and just over in the area. And then my brother, who had older brother, he had the Adidas, and it was like these velvety looking shoes. Do you remember those things there? They weren't velvet. It was like, what do you call that? Cloth.
Sort of a cloth, Velcro type cloth.
No, it wasn't Velcro. It was
cotton.
What do you call it? It's a leather jacket, but you got to be careful of the rain on it.
Suede.
Suede. It was suede.
Oh, suede.
They were suede shoes.
Yeah.
And they had the free stripes on the side.
Yes.
Do you remember those?
Yeah.
So he had these ones. There was the white with black, or he got this super cool ones, which was like a blue with orange.
Yep.
And it sounds terrible today, but it's like,
It's all coming back. They say
Yeah.
everything
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
around.
yeah.
in a
well, I
circle.
saw what
back,
Josiah did in our foyer with the timber slats there. I said, that's the 70s, son. That's not you.
Yeah, true.
It's like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And but anyhow, like the super cool, Nike wasn't done yet. All right. And so it was like super cool, like, wow.
Yeah.
This is it. You know what I mean? So it was just,
The influence of America.
and this is
over
all
here.
American
Yeah,
culture.
yeah.
That's
You know what I
right.
mean?
Yeah.
And all the English ones. So I mean, prior in the English ones around that time, I don't know. We had what's his name who came to the church we had together.
Cliff Richard.
Cliff Richard, he came to the
Cliff
church.
Richard and the Shadows.
Shadows, and that was you, the Shadows, okay? And of course the
When I could
Beatles,
play guitar.
you know what I mean? Rolling Stars,
Yeah.
Stones,
Stones.
yeah. The Rolling Stones is Mick Jagger's like 80-something years of age.
he's
He's
still
still
going.
doing concerts.
Oh
They're going
my
like,
goodness.
does that mean that we are so empty we got nothing creative? You know what I mean? Like, is that how bad we are? Like at the finals of the AFL?
AFL.
Your game, not mine.
Yes.
They've got Kiss.
That's right.
The
They brought
youngest
back.
Kiss member was like 75 or
Oh,
something. They're older
yeah.
than you.
Goodness.
You know what I mean? And they're going like, we're going to be entertained by senior citizens. You know what I mean? And but anyway. I mean, you think about it. Like,
It's a bit scary.
yeah, I mean, this is like, is there nothing new under the sun? You know what I mean? As Solomon said, but it was crazy.
Yeah.
But all this so this is what I mean by Americanism. So it's not being derogative of America.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about where it wasn't just where economically they took control, but culturally.
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 And all of a
Very, yeah.
sudden, the world where Australia would be known for more English, it changed. I mean, I remember, right, being in the youth group in the 70s, that the first time it was Burger King,
That's
Hungry
right.
Jacks,
Hungry Jacks, yeah.
It was at Garden City Shopping Centre on the outside area.
Yep.
And it's the first time I'd ever seen French fries.
Yep.
It's the first time I ever had something in the styrofoam clip boxes. And it was just like totally radical. Like all I was used to was the corner
Fish and chip
chips.
shop.
Well, I didn't
yeah.
get fish. I got chips, and we'd pour vinegar in the paper.
That's
the
it.
paper, put
That's
a vinegar.
it. That's it.
And the guy sometimes used to give us a potato scallop, you
Oh,
know,
right.
and
nice.
the odd one in there.
That was a special treat lunch for me at school to
Yeah.
go down to across
Hot
the
chips?
road.
Yeah.
Hot chips in your newspaper.
Ah,
Well, I used to play hooky from school.
Oh, I don't believe that.
What? Sure. You wouldn't do that.
Well, I'd go in the beginning for the mark on the roll,
Oh,
and
now the truth comes out.
I was fortunate not to get caught, but I used to do my note and forge my mum's signature. Little slip, because
dear.
I didn't want them contacting
Yes.
my mum.
Yeah.
Because you got to think smart. If you just play hooky, they ring the mum. So I do a little note of my school paperwork and tear it off and forge my mum. Please excuse Shaun today. He has a, and I'd hand it in and I'd take off.
Why am I not surprised, Shaun? I mean, I was your youth pastor and I saw a lot of wonderful things.
I wasn't bad, but we did this. And we'd hang out at Woodridge Station. There's a subway. In a uniform thing, I don't know. And there's a fish and chip shop there, and there's a little bar on the side. They used to sell secondhand a dime of cents comic books.
All right.
So we used to go in there. But we used to get all of those things there. But it's amazing what we did, right?
How do we get to this?
Yeah, I'm sort of having a
Confession
moment
time.
right now.
This is, we're having an open
So
confession.
experiencing French fries,
Oh, yes.
which has nothing to do with France or Belgium.
Yeah.
But they're so thin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Compared to the big chunky things.
chunky chips from
And it was
England.
a whole, and they put tomato sauce, ketchup, those little plastic things
Yes.
you tear open
Yeah.
and squirt all over yourself.
Yep.
And it was a whole different thing. And the burgers were just different to the...
Yeah.
But I still think the Australian burgers were better, you know, because they had beetroot and pineapple and everything else. But I mean, Big Mac, and then McDonald's opened up in Mankavat.
Right.
Yeah.
Pizza Hut opened up in Mankavat.
Yes.
Kentucky Fried Chicken was here before everybody, but it was just too far away for me to get it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it was in Green Slopes, which would have
Right.
been around your way.
Yes.
And then the old church property in Mount Gravatt turned into it. But where I was, there was no KFC. And so it was just a big American cultural thing.
Yes.
And so even when it comes to what I call our Pentecostalism,
Yes.
it's very much American. Now, don't take that wrong.
No.
But Australia was built on the English one, which was your Church of England and Methodist.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you chase up, as I have, the early missionaries, Australia and around the area, they were either Anglican or Methodist or Wesleyan, whatever you call it. They were the ones that worked around, okay? But then the American came in. I was in grade 7 when I first heard of the church your brother ran.
Yes.
I was in grade 7, and a friend of mine, his name was Gary Ship, S-H-I-P. And I don't know what happened, but somehow the conversation went about God. And I said, yes, I'm a Methodist. You know what I mean? And he said, yeah, I go to church. And I said, well, what church is that? He says, the Assemblies of God. Now, I didn't know much about God, but I knew straight away it sounded like the devil. Assemblies of God? You know what I mean? I mean, if you know, like, what a name. I've never heard of such a name. Assemblies of God?
Assembling? What?
You know what I mean? Of God. We were Methodist, you know what I mean? And it gave me shivers. Little did I know in a couple of years, I'd be at that very church. He was gone.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'd be at that very church.
Yeah.
Isn't it amazing how seeds could be planted that you don't
Absolutely.
realize?
Yeah.
That's true.
And you know, as the Pentecostal, it is very much American based.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it was in the 50s, like 56, 57, a great American evangelist who I had the privilege to meet through your brother, Oral Roberts, came to Australia. And it wasn't so much as the Australians, but it was the mainline church of the Baptists and the others who infiltrated here that protested against him and pulled his tent down.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And he had to go home.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Years later, you know, in the 80s, the 90s, he still never forgot that area. He was still carrying out.
Well, my brother was healed under Oral Roberts because he was on the prayer line, and my brother stuttered terribly and couldn't put a sentence together, and came through, and Oral Roberts prayed for him, and he was instantly released.
That's incredible.
Stuttering.
Wow.
So that was in the late 50s.
Yes.
So he had to flee. Then 2 years later, Billy Graham was coming over.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the first thing is, I said, are they going to treat Billy like they did Oral? Well, the answer is no.
Yeah.
Because as much as I want to blame the unsaved, the biggest problem we have in the church is not the unchurched. It's the competing denominations.
Yeah, the denomination.
That's
And of course, the Baptist says, no way, we want him. And the Anglican said, okay. And the others like that. And they said, but we exclude the Pentecostals. And it was Billy Graham.
Yeah.
It was Billy Graham who said, no, you will not exclude them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he did more for healing of the Pentecostals, didn't he, Rodney?
Yes, he did.
And of course, his crusades still hold the record of the highest attendance, I think, here in Brisbane.
And at the MCG.
Did he come to Brisbane? But in the
MCG.
MCG and all that,
Yeah,
the
in
highest
Melbourne.
attendance. I don't think he came to Brisbane, but the highest attendance, which
Yeah.
is remarkable.
Yeah, yeah.
And it kind of put the Pentecostals on a map of respect, didn't it? And we see that it was building and developing. And then what happened in the world stage, it was Gerald Ford was the president, and he was the only American president who was never elected.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
It's amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
The only American president who was never elected was President Gerald Ford, because he was the vice president to Nixon.
Yes.
And Nixon had to resign because he was corrupt.
Oh yeah, Watergate.
Watergate, that's right. And so Gerald Ford came in, and Gerald Ford gave a presidential pardon on Nixon.
Yeah.
So the people were like angry.
Stuff this guy.
Yeah, like a Trump thing, but they're angry when they go to him. And so he got kicked out. And he was the governor of Arkansas, but he grew up, he had his own peanut farm. It was called Jimmy Carter,
Jimmy Carter.
Democrat.
Okay.
Yes.
So he came into power, and he did what had never been done before.
Oh.
He said, I am a Christian.
Wow.
Born again, I am a born again Christian. Baptist, I'm born again. I always thought Jimmy Carter was a contradiction. You know that? Because his faith was obvious.
Yes.
I mean, he declared it, don't get me
Yes.
wrong.
Very strong out there.
But he supported abortion. He supported LGBTQ because the Democrat, I don't know if he did personally, but because of his party, and he wouldn't run. So he came in like really in that area.
Yes.
But then America had the problem with Iran. It wasn't called Iran then, it was called Persia.
Yeah.
And the Shah came over here to escape. There was a revolution. The Ayatollah came in, and they took the American embassy captive and American people. And for the last 18 months of President Jimmy Carter's reign, the Iranians took the mickey out of him, whether because he's a Christian or because he wasn't strong enough or what. And even Jimmy Carter tried to send the special forces, but the helicopters crashed, people died. It was a fire. And boy, did they do it. But then there was this divorced man who was governor, who was a B-grade actor called
Ronald Reagan,
where his best role as a B-grade actor was acting with a chimpanzee. You look it up. I'm not joking.
Yeah.
And he said all the right things.
Yes.
He said, when I come in there, I can't do it. When I come in there, I'm coming after you, Ayatollah. I'm coming. They put his head on Rambo's body.
You did
know what I'm
very
saying?
well. You did very well.
And here's the thing. Jimmy Carter hoped that he would have a resolution this time with the Iranian. As Jimmy Carter drove out of the White House limousine, and as Wilson Reagan drove in, as soon as he drove in, the Ayatollah released him.
Oh, wow.
They said, we don't want to mess with this guy. Now, let me just bring the story in here.
Yes.
Christians have this circle. This is what I'm trying to say, and I got to finish off. They have this circle.
Yes.
And the circle is, we want to affect the world that we live in. We want to affect the political arena. We want to affect the places of learning, the universities. And we want to affect the community areas. They're the three things. Forget about the mountains, but that's the three things. The political, we want to affect the places of learning. And we understand that because we read in churches. But see, the problem is that we think Old Testament than New. So the Old Testament, God was speaking to form a nation.
Yes.
God's not doing that today. God is raising up a people.
Yes. Yes.
But the problem is we still keep going Old Testament.
That's right.
So America now is God's nation, or this is God's nation, so we need to pull it. That's not what God, that's Old Testament, that's not New Testament. So when you say, if my people are called by name, that promise is not to the New Covenant. That's Old Testament as a nation. God's not calling a nation.
That's right.
Yeah.
You say, what about Israel? Israel is a covenant.
Yes.
It always has been. Even Paul says that, it's a covenant.
Yeah.
God always has a covenant with the people. And it's not because the Israelis are good people. It's God's So a covenant is, it doesn't matter what you do, you're my covenant.
Yes.
It's not a contract. It's a covenant. That's why things happen in Israel which I can't explain.
No,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
I can't explain.
Very true.
But it's covenant.
Yes.
And that's God's covenant.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we are, through faith,
That's it.
seed of Abraham. So what happens is our Pentecostalism, seeing one thing else, is really strong rooted with us, all right, from American culture. And historically, when America had its worst ever war was its Civil War.
Yes. Yes.
The American Civil War had over 600,000 deaths.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these Americans who died. If you were to count all of those who died out of every war that America's been in, from the Revolution all the way through the area, it still doesn't equal the number of that one Civil War.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you had the North and the South. You had great preachers in the North, and you had great preachers in the South. And both lots of them were prophesying,
Yeah. Yeah.
preaching that God is with them, and that they wanted to affect the political area. Somebody had to lose.
Yeah.
The South lost.
Yep.
And when the South lost, it wasn't just that they lost the war, but their understanding of God was destroyed.
Yeah.
They said that after that Civil War, the Southern ministry and church was in a place of just total, I don't know how to handle this. It's just totally out of it. It was 1861 to 1865. Now, what is interesting here is that the North then, in the Pennsylvania area, began to also want to pull out of all the politic areas. So when the church is at one area, it wants to be kingdom, and we want to influence the places of learning. And of course, there's all the major universities here and over there all supporting Hamas. We want to infiltrate the politics, and didn't we wreck that with Morrison? I mean, when Scott Morrison's a born-again Christian, he went to Horizon Church, which was ACC or AOG, and Morrison would preach the odd time. But here's a problem, right? Kings want to be priests, and priests want to be kings.
Yeah.
And those who are voting the prime minister kind of blew it.
Yep.
They should have said, be the prime minister, don't be the preacher.
Yep.
And those who are preachers, stop trying to be the political leaders.
Yep.
I believe that the pivotal point that wrecked it for the Prime Minister Scott Morrison was when he went to the ACC, the AOG conference for thousands. And he got up on that stage with the ACC president and everything else. And they should have told him, just be prime minister. Just get up there and say, it's great to be here with you, brothers and sisters. I am the Prime Minister of Australia. I'm a born-again Christian, but I'm also Australia's Prime Minister. Pray for me.
Period. Yeah.
But instead, he went on to this thing like the mountains. We got to influence. We got to do this. So he began to preach in the area because he got caught up in the enthusiasm. Stop. That's when his effectiveness finished. And this is always the cycle of what we do.
Yeah.
So the church wants to infiltrate. Look, in my time, I've been in Parliament House when John Howard is there meeting and talking. I've been in the corridors of the Queensland area with Premier Beattie, talking with him. I've been in the very rooms and offices of who was the Logan mayor. Today, I'm not in any of them, okay? But it's a cycle. So what happened to the church when this happened, they pull back.
Yes.
And instead of saying we're going to influence the world, they begin to say, well, let's just work on our own spirituality and let's just work on our own holiness. So that's when it was in the late 1800s, okay, 1880, 1890, that the Americans did these camp meetings, okay? And it was started in Swampscott, Massachusetts in July 1876, which is a decade after the Civil War. A Southern Baptist minister by the name of A.J. Gordon, Irish descent areas, okay, from Boston, he played a leading role, and he had these two large prophetic conferences in 1878 in Chicago, in New York, and in 1886 in Chicago. And the whole thing came out of this new teaching called premillennialism. And out of premillennialism was two basic truths. One, this world is corrupt and it's going to continue to decline. 2, the Antichrist is coming. So we as Christians go into retreat. This is the doctrine.
Yep.
Okay? We go into retreat, and everything is about the end of the world.
Yep.
End of the world. And we wait for the millennium reign of 1,000 years when it's pulled down. Okay? So this is how the church works. Okay? When we feel we're influential, it's kingdom.
Yeah.
We're going to influence government. We're going to influence universities. We're going to influence the media. Right? And while it's running, hey, the guy we want is elected. Hey, you know, right? All that stuff. But when we lose, we pull back as a turtle and we go like, this world is evil.
Yep.
Sin is in control.
Jesus is coming.
We need to escape the Antichrist. I said to Ed, you wait.
Yeah.
This is last Friday.
Yep.
We're at Shabbat. There's going to be teaching right now, again, saying it's the end of the world. And Ed just told me he just saw.
Yeah.
Just
There was
this
some scripture going viral on TikTok. It was a section of Luke 21 where Jesus is preaching about, the destruction of Israel and all that.
Yeah, and we saw it in COVID.
COVID?
You know, when COVID, we were well, if you take the injection, you're going to hell, because I got said to me it's going to hell.
Mark of the beast.
You're going to be dead in 2 years because it's really poison. I mean, if you're going to poison someone, wouldn't you poison those who are against it rather than those who are for it? I mean, wouldn't you? Okay. And so it goes on and on and on, okay? Because when the Christians feel they lose, we forget kingdom.
Yep.
And we come into what I call self-preservation.
Yes.
So we retreat, we get caught up with a woo, 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 touch me, rock me, No, I'm a Pentecostal.
Yeah.
I believe in all that, but we go extreme, we go crazy and we pull back from it. So we forget kingdom.
Yes, that's right.
See, the kingdom forcibly advanced. And by forcibly advanced doesn't mean we throw in a hand grenade, but forcibly advanced means that we stand up against these things and we stay faithful.
Yes.
That's right.
So if you are allowing these things at this present time to make you retreat, you're only doing what happened historically in the late 1800s after the Civil War, to where we pull back, we bring out a doctrine that says the reason why we're not getting there is because it's the end of the world is evil, when they retreat. So this was being taught in 1878, 1876.
Yeah.
And it's a cycle.
That's right.
See, the reason why I like history, Pastor Rod, is because if we can study history, we can understand today.
Yes.
So when I see things, now, do I believe in the return of Jesus? Of course I believe in the return of Jesus. He could come tonight, could come today.
Yeah.
Of course I do. I don't personally think he'll come today. But then again, it says when you think not at time. What makes me laugh is all these people who think they know, and yet the Bible says Jesus doesn't even know.
That's
they know more than
exactly
Jesus.
right. I know the Father knows.
But they know more than Jesus.
That's it.
They got a direct line to God. I don't know.
How many times have we had these predicted years of when Christ was going to return?
Yeah, 86, 88. I mean, you and I, the millennium changed in 2000, and then COVID and that area. And then when COVID didn't work, one guy I was talking to said, it's just a test run. Let me get it right.
Come on.
The devil's doing a test run. Okay, good job. I had one Christian guy said to me,
Oh, my goodness.
listen to me. There will always be wars and rumors of wars. And that happened the day Jesus ascended. If you chase up history, you'll see that the wars and the rumors of wars and famines and earthquakes happened the day Jesus went.
Yeah.
Just check, look at Pompeii,
Yes.
look at all the areas and the wars and the Roman. That was when the Roman Empire became divided and split up and all the fights and all the things there.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say, just to finish off, because I've talked too much, I know it to me. What I'm trying to say is this, guys, okay, is that God's on the front.
Yes.
Yes.
I believe in the return of Jesus.
That's right.
Yes.
But I am not at Rapture Bus Stop 666. Okay? I want to advance the kingdom.
Yeah.
That's why this Friday night I'll be at the synagogue. Why? Are you going to be Jewish? No. But I'm trying to infiltrate and tell them I am a Christian. Because when I've gone to the synagogue before, they're polite to me, but,
Yeah.
Gentile. But going through all this thing here, having other people say, we love you and I'm praying for you. Yeah, would you do it at Palestinians? Well, we tried.
Yeah.
We were there.
Yeah, we got footage.
We got footage. We went there. But it was more like this. They didn't want to hear. Okay, we were there.
Yeah.
We did not ignore the Palestinians, did we?
Yeah,
We got it on film.
We went there.
Yeah. But we went in the synagogue, okay, and we do the same message, and we're open up.
Yeah.
Because our job, right, Ed, is we want to share Jesus.
it.
Whether you're Palestinian,
That's right.
whether you're Hamas, whether you're Jewish,
Yeah.
whether you're Christian. Jesus.
Jesus.
That's it. It's all about him.
Yeah.
Pastor Rod, I'm looking forward to having you. You're a friend.
Thank you.
You've given me plenty of good things and plenty of big challenges, okay, as you are my youth pastor, okay, but yours, my brother.
Those were the days, my friend.
Yes. And so I'm blessed to have you,
Thank
okay?
you.
And so we look forward to be sharing at 8 a.m. and 9:30, which is great. I'm going to be sharing the word on Sunday night. It's about the firebrand.
Ooh, firebrand.
Yes, out of the fire came a brand.
Is it like the drink?
You have to be there to hear it. Okay,
Sorry, that was a really
firebrand.
bad joke.
It was a terrible joke. In fact, I didn't even know it was a joke. Okay,
I didn't know where he was
it
going.
would be a bad joke if we realized it was a joke gone wrong.
Yeah,
but when we
yeah.
don't even realize what it is, it's only in
You
your
missed it, Ed. You missed it.
You missed it.
Yeah, I missed
Ed.
the mark.
You
I
missed
missed
it.
the mark. Yeah.
But he's a good lad. He said to me,
Yes.
Rodney, he said, "Can you tell me why you've chose me to come along to the synagogue
yeah,
and
come to
that?"
synagogue.
And I said, "Well, Ed, it's very simple. You and I are expendable." He goes, "Expendable?" Meaning like, I can see why you are, but me, I said, "Well, you're single with no attachments and no needs. So just mum will be miss you, of
Yeah.
course." Yeah.
Yeah.
And he said, as for me, I said, "Well, I'm older and I've done my stuff and Josiah's ready on the sides there. So my wife will get a good payout." So I said, it'll all work out. Okay. I'm sure I annoy my wife. So I said, we are the expendables.
We're expendable. We're expendable.
So
yeah.
we called ourselves the Expendables.
Expendables.
There
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
a movie on that, wasn't there?
Yeah.
I would never endorse those movies. I'm just talking about us in our spiritual journey. Okay, let me make that clear. Never would I endorse such ones. And I'm being serious about what comes in there. I'm looking forward to hearing you, my friend.
Yep, looking
and
forward to it.
you're also down here for your daughter's birthday
Yes.
and supporting, or up here.
Yes, up here.
Across here, I don't know. You're from Adelaide as the crow flies. And,
That's right.
Where
The
the
Crows
cane-
are a good team.
We're the cane toads, okay? So, yeah, we didn't do any good. The Lions lost, the Broncos
That's
lost.
it.
And
You
then-
did, and they were my second team that I was supporting, and
Yeah,
didn't
well, I'm
make
going
any
to let you
difference.
know that I didn't really care less.
I
don't follow.
know. I know. I spoke to you, and you let me know very clearly.
I have friends who are probably disappointed about my attitude, but friend, if you're listening, I love you, brother, but I really don't care. Okay? My hope is elsewhere. Praise God. I don't want to be controlled by a game.
Yeah.
No, it's just fun.
Yeah, it's just fun.
No, except they get depressed. I see people get so upset and depressed.
Yeah, my team did
Come on,
it.
Roddy. It took me 15 minutes to get you up. Okay, so I come now. Second. We look forward to seeing you again next week,
Yes.
and we're going to be sharing. We're going to be doing a special coming up on Halloween as well, right? So because Halloween's coming
yes,
up there,
coming
so
up,
the
yes.
dangers. So Pastor Rod, thanks for coming with us.
You're welcome.
Give our
Thank you.
love to all of those in Bethesda.
Will do.
Tell them that I missed them.
I'll tell them that.
You tell them that. Praise God. God bless you. We love you. See you on Sunday.
See you next week, guys. Woo.